Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Following on from the press conference in Qatar, where Declan Rice was asked by a journalist about his ambitions for winning Premier League, Champions League honours in his career, and obviously the response that Declan Rice gave, where he alluded to the fact that football is a short career and you want to look back on your career and look at your achievements. It would appear that this may have been a catalyst for action for the board, Gold, Sullivan, Brady, Kretinsky. It appears are going to go back to Declan Rice and his representatives with an offer of an improved contract. He's rejected several contracts up to this point, each of which would have made him the highest paid player in the history of the club, and he has turned them all down thus far. The latest reports suggest that the board are going to make one last attempt at offering Declan Rice a contract, the suggested salary of £13 million per year. I'm not entirely sure whether there will be what I'm led to believe has been the sticking point in the previous contracts and why they were rejected, that being a release clause, a bit like Jack Grealish had when he signed his last deal at Aston Villa. There was a clause in that said that should a club offer £100 million for the transfer of Jack Grealish to club A and other, then they could not stand in the player's way. And duly what happened was that Manchester City then came in, offered £100 million, and Jack Grealish was then a Manchester City player. And it is my understanding that this is essentially what the sticking point has been for Declan Rice signing a new deal. I don't know whether this new deal has that release clause. If it hasn't, well, to be honest with you, I think that this is probably a bit of a sort of token gesture from the board. If they know full well that Declan Rice and his representatives are looking for a contract that has some definitive release clause woven into it, and we don't give it, then to be honest with you, we know exactly what's going to happen, because as has already been alluded to, Declan Rice is not money orientated. He's not overly concerned about buying flash cars, big mansions in the countryside. That's not what Declan Rice is all about. Declan Rice is a very down-to-earth, humble young man, and money isn't his god. Yes, being remunerated for his achievements on the pitch, for what he does for West Ham United, obviously he should be given a decent amount of money compared to his contemporaries and his peers. That's absolutely fair. But money is not his sole objective. He wants, as he stated, to win trophies, to have winners' medals, to play in the very biggest games that football has to offer. And with regret, we're not in a position to give that to him. I do think, however, one thing I will say that possibly could change the dynamic on the 2nd of January is obviously Mark Noble, who in that interview on TalkSport that we discussed the other day has already said that Declan Rice is not money motivated. So that could possibly be something that maybe the club could potentially use as a bit of leverage, because we know that there is a very good relationship between Declan Rice and Mark Noble. Declan Rice has a great deal of respect for the professional that is Mark Noble. Could it be that maybe Mark Noble could possibly be a little bit of leverage that could be used to try and persuade Declan Rice to sign this contract? Maybe. But I do think that it may well be that if we're going to offer him a contract, I think we need to understand that it's not purely the money that needs to be looked at. I think we need to ensure that Declan Rice is content that if he's going to put pen to paper, that this is going to be something that he is satisfied with. And I think that unless there is this release clause in the contract, then I don't think he's going to sign it anyway. So I don't really see that there's any point in offering. You could offer him, a salary of £20 million. If it hasn't got the release clause in it and it ties Declan Rice to this club for the next 5 years or whatever, then he's never going to sign it. He just simply is not. Now, I'm of the opinion, yes, I agree that the board should make one more attempt. But as I say, I just think that this is a token gesture. It's an empty gesture in a lot of ways if it's not going to make Declan sign the contract. And I'll be honest, I'm of the opinion, and I know there's been a lot of speculation over the last year, 18 months about Declan. Is he going? Isn't he going? And there's been lots of people that have to do with the club that have had various things to say. David Sullivan, David Moyes, all making proclamations that he's got £100 million, £120 million. He's not for sale at any price. Whatever the quotation you want to look at, everybody has their price. Everybody has their price. As far as a release clause is concerned in a contract, me personally, I don't really see the problem with it. I mean, again, go back to Jack Grealish, £100 million. That was what Aston Villa were happy with. They probably didn't want Jack Grealish to go in a lot of ways, but they had to set a figure that meant that they would get a decent amount of money to be able to go and do some business. Whether it was good business or not is a matter of opinion, but the fact of the matter is, off of the back of Jack Grealish's sale, Aston Villa then went and got 3 players that they got in to sort of bolster their ranks in terms of their numbers. Maybe not in terms of quality, but they bolstered their squad in terms of numbers. I've got no problem if we have a release clause in Declan Rice's contract. That's absolutely fine. If we're going to get a fair price for an England international, 23 years of age, in my opinion, one of the best central defensive midfielders in the game, and he is still going to get better. His potential is absolutely astonishing. Then if we're going to put in a release clause, and I don't know, let's say it's 100 million, let's say it's 120 million, just for the purposes of debate. And then after a year, Manchester City, Real Madrid, whoever, one of the real heavy hitters in world football comes in and says, okay, we know you've got this release clause that's in the contract. We know that if we offer this amount of money, you've got to let him go. Obviously, providing the player agrees personal terms with us. So here you go. Here's your X amount of pounds that's in the release clause of the contract. If we're going to get that money, and if the manager is going to get that money to reinvest in the playing squad and hopefully take us on a step, then I really have no problem with it. As I say, another one I'll use as an example, Gareth Bale when he left Tottenham. And they got, 85 million pounds from Real Madrid. It was a world record at the time. And they went out and they bought lots of different players. They bolstered the numbers. They, you know, and a few years later they were playing in a Champions League final. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that if we sell Declan Rice that means that we're going to get into a Champions League final or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is that nothing stands, you know, things don't stay the same forever. They evolve, they change, they adapt. And like I say, Declan Rice, if he goes, he goes. But for me, I think this offer of a contract, I think it's an empty gesture, unless it's going to have this release clause. And as far as a release clause is concerned, I don't have any problem with that. So if you're going to offer him the contract at £13 million, make sure it's got a release contract in it, because otherwise it's a complete waste of time. So that's just my thoughts on it. You've got the comment section below. Let us know what you think on this particular topic, and I'll see you again next time. Come on, you Irons.